Welcome back to the Rich Life Diaries podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you my tips on how to not get scammed when you're starting a new business. So let's get into it. Welcome to Rich Life Diaries, the podcast where we talk real strategies for creating abundance, building a business you love, and designing a life that actually feels good. If you're done playing small and ready to create your dream life, you're in the right place. So over the last 13 years, so I started Clickstart Digital, which is my business 13 years ago. It's an e-commerce agency. So when I started Clickstart, I was the only one out there doing that. I think I had one competitor in America. But over the last 5 years, I've seen a lot of people pop up and then disappear a couple of years later. And I've heard a lot of stories about, people getting scammed and all kinds of things. So in today's podcast, I just wanted to share what the lessons that I've learned from talking to people and seeing what's coming up and what happens and some red flags to look out for, because I don't want you to get scammed and I don't want you to lose your money. And I just feel like, I've been debating about doing this video for a while, to be honest, because it's one of those things. I don't want to seem like I'm poo-hooing competitors. Or I've got sour grapes about having competitors. I don't. I'm here for every business has got competitors. I'm here for it. I'm good. It's just more of the things that they do that lack integrity that doesn't sit well with me. And I just feel like I just want to share this and, as I said, show you the red flags to look out for so you don't go and lose your money with someone, selling you snake oil pretty much. So before we get into it, I'll just share a little story as an example. I had this call from this lady about 2 months ago. And anyway, she just calls me and she's like, "Oh, hi, I'm one of your competitors. I just wanted to find out if you wanted to buy my database. I'm shutting the business down. I've had enough. All I do is refund people and I'm sick of it. And I want to get out and I want to move into this other business model that I've discovered." Anyway, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Oh, what's the name of your company?" And then she told me. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had a look at her website. I'm like, "This website looks familiar." And I said, "Oh, I haven't heard of your business name." And she goes, "Oh, no, I've changed my name a few times." And I was like, straight away, bing, red flag. And I was like, okay. I said, "Oh, okay, no worries." And I said, "Well, look, send me an email and I'll have a look and I'll come back to you." So I did some research on this lady. Now, there's no information about her particularly on the website at all. In fact, there was no about us information. So there was nothing on the website. So they're in the same space as me. They sell e-commerce services to help people launch a business. So there's nothing on her website about her background, her history, if she's even run an e-commerce business before, like nothing. Anyway, I ended up finding out her last name. I had to do a bit of research going through the ABR website and looking up ABNs and things like that. It took me a little bit of time. I found out her last name and then I did a Google search. Wow. The chick has been in jail for running a boiler room with her business partner years before. Like fucking nuts. I was like, what? As if I'm going to buy anything from her. God knows where the bloody leads have come from. Anyway, that's beside the point. But this is the kind of industry I'm sitting in right now. And it doesn't feel good. I feel like I'm swimming in an ocean full of sharks and I'm the dolphin or something. I don't know. It doesn't feel good being in this industry right now. I'm not going to lie. Because I keep seeing and hearing stories like this all the time. I have many clients that have come on board with us that originally went on board. They got sold into the hype with other competitors and then realized once they were in the program, oh shit, okay, I've made a mistake. And then they've come on board with us. And so I hear all these different stories. And if I had to share all the stories, this podcast would probably go for an hour. It blows my mind. And this is why I just felt compelled to do this podcast today to talk about, getting scammed and things like that. Because I just really want to show people the red flags to look out for when you are choosing a provider to work with, if you are looking at starting a business, whether that's, with a company like Clickstart or someone else, that's up to you. But I just want to show you the red flags. So the last thing I want is for you to lose your money and get scammed by one of these charlatans, because there's plenty of them out there. And there's plenty of things to look out for. So one of the main things that blows my mind is like this lady, like she's got no experience. She's a professional scam artist, but people don't bother to look at About Us pages and see who is this person, who owns this business, what background, how long has this company been running for, really? They all lie and say they've been running longer than what they have, but you can find out all that information just by doing a little bit of research on, looking up, on the ASIC website or whatever to find out more information about their ABN or their ACN or whatever. But there's just so many people that, like her, like pop up and have no information about who they are. So that's red flag number one. If you go to a business's website and that person has got no information about their background, or they do have information, but they don't have a strong background with longevity in the industry that they're trying to sell you into, don't work with them. That's a huge red flag. You're not going to learn from people that have never walked the path before you. You learn from people that have achieved what you want to achieve. You learn from people in the case of Clickstart Digital. I started that business 13 years ago. Prior to that, I started from scratch an e-commerce store. I built that e-commerce store up and then I sold it 4 years later for a hefty profit. Now, I'm not saying, there's a competitor out there now that he spruiks that he's, got these successful e-commerce stores, but I know for a fact he never started those businesses. They were successful businesses from the agency that used to be the name of his company. It used to be an ad agency 4 years ago. And that ad agency was focused on the e-commerce industry only. And he basically found these successful clients from that and then obviously bought into their businesses and now uses their success as his own, which isn't the case. He just bought an already successful business. He didn't start it, create it. That's the hardest part of a business, is starting and creating, and getting to that point. So if someone hasn't even done that themselves, what makes them an expert? And what are they going to teach you about that when they haven't even done that themselves? It just blows my mind that there's so many of these people out there. There's another one, they're a bunch of dudes in Bali. I had a look at their site. It's like there's no information about their background. It just had, some fluffy stuff about, oh, we're cool bros that live in Bali or whatever. Big fucking whoop. Like, how are they going to make you any money? They're making money, selling a course. Well, they're actually giving it away for free. And then I think they're just getting clips on all the affiliate stuff. But it's like, number one, just look at the founder. And if you can't find any information about who they are on the website, start doing some more searching about who the hell this person is. And do they have that knowledge? Do they have years and years of experience that they can share with you? Because trust me, I've been in this industry, like I've been running Clickstart for 13 years. I had my own business for 4 years prior. I've been in this industry for 17 years. I've seen it all in that time. And I know what works and I know what doesn't as well, because I've been around it for 17 years. I'm not saying that someone's been around it for a year or two doesn't know, but, just try to work with someone that's got a lot of experience and they're very, it's easy to find that information. As I said, that's sort of one of the biggest red flags that I see. Another red flag to look out for is check out the reviews. Now, a lot of these new businesses tend to have a lot of reviews, which is interesting. Because you sort of think, okay, why do they have so many reviews so quickly? And that's kind of a red flag in itself. Okay, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you left a good review for someone? And did they incentivize you or ask you to do that or whatever? So just ask yourself that question. There's a lot of these reviews for these other companies, from what I can see, are either fake or, they're paying people something or giving them something to basically leave the review. I'm not sure which one it is because I'm not in their businesses. But if someone's got a lot of reviews over a short time period, they're either fake or, there's probably a little bit of suspicion around that, in my experience anyway. Another thing to look out for is a business that's really heavy on selling and sales. So I've got a couple of competitors in particular that I like this. They're both boys. The founders are boys that worked with the Wolf of Wall Street. for many years. So the guy that got put into jail for scamming people, Jordan Belford, these boys, I know years ago when I did some research on them, I found photos of them with Jordan Belford, and I know one of them, sort of worked alongside him for many years, for 4 or 5 years, traveling around when he was doing his training and things like that for selling. So these guys are very good salespeople. They're very good at selling, very good. Can't fault them. They know what to say. They know how to manipulate. They know, what to do to, hype things up. And on a sales call, from what I've seen, they make it all sound so easy. And, big numbers flashing everywhere and all of that stuff. And it's easy to get caught into the hype. I understand that. I avoid doing that. So I like to be realistic, and we have realistic examples and things like that. We've got plenty of clients making shit tons of money, but I don't like using them as examples because I want to set people's expectation from the start. And my focus in my business isn't about selling. My focus in my business is about delivering e-commerce education. That's what my business is. I'm not a sales company. I'm an e-commerce education company. That's what I care about. Whereas I do find these other guys, not poo-hooing them, but they're just, if you look at their team, they've got like a team of 20 salespeople. None of them have e-commerce backgrounds. They're just young bros hungry for money that basically get on the calls and just, know all the sales tactics and things to sort of make you believe that, it's all so easy, and they keep everything super vague. I was actually had a call last week with a potential client. And she just gave me this lovely feedback. She's like, oh, so, I found you on, your ad, and then I watched your stuff, and then I booked in for a call, and then, oh my God, I see now I'm getting smashed with all these other ads of all these other people. It's just, and then so I've started researching them, and I've been talking to all these other companies, and she was just telling me the stories about them. She said, oh, I'm going to go with you, obviously, but she just told me, I said, oh, so what happened with these other ones? And I won't say the guy's name, but she said, oh, I called them. They were selling stores for $3,000, which she said I just thought sounded too cheap. And I kept asking the young guy, so does that include a website? And he's like, yeah, it includes a website. She's like, how's this so cheap? Anyway, and then 10 minutes into the call, she's asking again. She goes, so $3,000, you build a website for me as well as, offer the online education? No, we don't build the website. But he wouldn't tell her what she's getting. But I've heard this before from other people, like other leads and people that come on board with us that tell us the same thing. So I've heard a lot of these stories. This isn't an isolated story. I keep hearing this, that they tend to keep everything super vague. So you don't kind of really know what you're paying for. They don't have pricing on their website. That's intentional, because they don't want to put their pricing on their website, because then it's in black and white. You know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what the cost is. So what they do as a sales tactic is they say, oh, we're doing a special. You get this normally, their package is normally whatever, 10 grand, let's say. They'll tell you it's a special for 10 grand, but it's normally, 20 grand, but it's actually always normally 10 grand. So, there's all these sales tactics that they use, all this kind of trickery to make everything look, bigger and better and more wonderful. And it works. It works. A lot of people, they fall for the hype, and I get it. But just have your guard up, just do your research if you are considering, any educational companies, to work with any educational companies to start your business. Just really do your research. And just look out for those sort of common red flags, because I keep hearing stories all the time. I talk to people and I'm hearing the same stories all the time. And as I said earlier, we've had quite a few clients come on board with us that have been burnt with other providers, and then they share their stories and all that as well. It's just nuts out there. So just be really careful about those things. So another red flag to look out for is if you have a look at their About Us page and you read through their team profiles, and it seems like the team doesn't really have any experience in your industry, in the industry that you're going into, like with e-commerce. So if you look at their About Us page and you're not sort of seeing any solid sort of team experience, that's a red flag. You want to be working with people, especially if you're getting coaching. You want to be getting coaching for people that have actually run a friggin' successful e-commerce business. I mean, hello, but a lot of people, a lot of these, competitors and stuff, their team have never run an e-commerce store. So just make sure you do the research on the team and, where they are and what their background is and that kind of thing. Another thing that I keep seeing and hearing all the time is, and I have a bit of a theory on this, if somebody is going to lie about one thing, they're probably lying about everything. And I have seen this with a particular competitor of ours. You know, when he started the business 2 years ago, I remember him saying, you know, I've been in business for 5 years. And now recently I saw an ad the other day for him, and now he's saying, oh, I've been doing this for a decade. Like, what the fuck? Bro, you popped up 2-3 years ago. Like, come on. And he is the one that, you know, I question his integrity because he throws out the biggest numbers. He's super salesy. He's very polished. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, honestly, like, you know, I've got no issues with that, but it just screams like sus, you know. And as I said, if someone's lying about one thing, they're lying about everything. And I know for a fact I know exactly how long his business has been around for. I know what the business was before he took over. I know all of it. It's, you know, if you go down a rabbit hole, you can do some research. You can look up, use a site called waybackwhen.net, I think it is. That'll show you everything you need to know. So put in a URL of a business that you want to do research on, and that'll show you. Like, that's where I got a lot of this information from about him. Because I could see that, you know, 3 years ago, the business was like an agency, an e-commerce ad agency, setting up people's ads for them. It was never a education agency. But anyways, so yeah, have a look at that tool. It's a really cool tool. You can just go back, and then you can go back in time to see what people's websites looked like 10 years ago. It's really cool. And it's just a good research tool to do your, you know, due diligence when you're about to drop, you know, whatever, 10 grand or 30 grand or 3 grand or whatever with any of these providers. So check that out. Another thing I just wanted to mention, I spoke to a guy a couple of months ago. He went ahead with a competitor, and he was just telling me about how their training was really cumbersome. Like, it was just really overwhelming. It you know, he thought he was an idiot because he's like, oh, why am I not getting this? And he got one of his friends to jump in and have a look at it. And the friend said the same thing. They said, no, this program, it's just the education side of it. Like, the videos were just way too in-depth and overwhelming. And I remember a couple of years ago, I got access to one of my competitors, one of our clients who came on board from them. She actually gave me access to their education. I went in and had a quick look, and yeah, it was the same. And it was okay with me because I've been in this industry forever, so I knew, you know, I understood it because I'm in the industry. But I was watching a video, and then back then the videos went for like half an hour to 45 minutes, which is way too long. And I started watching. I'm like, this is overwhelming. Like, a newbie, they're just going to freak out. They're going to watch this and then they're going to freak out, and they're not going to complete it or do anything because they're going to internalize that and think it's them, and they're going to think, I'm a dummy. You know, this is me. I'm not smart enough to get this. So maybe I'm not cut out for an e-commerce business. And then all the negative talk comes in, and then they just psych themselves out and don't do anything. And they're too embarrassed to go back to the company and say, oh, I want a refund, because they just think, oh, I'm just an idiot, you know, but then you're not. Some of these companies intentionally set up their training so it is so overwhelming because they kind of want you to do that on some levels. So it was interesting that, anyway, this guy, I've heard this before as well. The two ladies that came on board recently said the same thing. They came over to us from a competitor, and they said the same thing. And that's the reason why they came on board with us, and they shared that information with me. But yeah, I also had this call with this guy, and he told me that shared the same story. So yeah, that's just another thing to kind of, you know, keep in the back of your mind. On all that, I'll just finish it off on the last red flag to look out for is if they don't have a terms and conditions to sign. So that's a huge red flag. And the reason why is it's basically protecting them. If you haven't signed a contract, you've got no proof of nothing. You've given them money. What are they going to deliver? Like air? Because you've got no contract that says that, you know, the two parties, the business and the consumer, the client, you've got nothing in writing to say that they owe you anything for your 3 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever. So yeah, I've noticed this lately, which blows my mind because I was like, why aren't they getting people to sign a terms and conditions? Like, that's just basic business etiquette. But that's the reason why. It's because they don't want you to come back on them. And legally you can't. If you haven't signed a contract, you got no legal leg to stand on. So that's something else to look out for, another red flag to look out for when you're working with any providers or any businesses. So guys, that's my episode today discussing what to look out for so you don't get scammed. I hope you found this episode useful, and make sure you subscribe to our channel to keep up to date, and I'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. See ya.